this again, and there were two, well, we all interpreted this different ways, right? P represents the population proportion of all female students who received a grade of an A. And being that they're saying of all female students instead of all students, then we should do out of the females and not out of the total. So, you know, in the last little recording, I made an error because I went out of the total. Okay, there are different ways that you could take this table. But because it's saying here all female students who received a grade of A on this test, I think the verbiage, the wording is implying, because she said that it's out of the female students and not out of all students. Because otherwise it would say, let P represent the population proportion of all students who received a grade of A. This wording is not good. It's not good. It should be a little bit more, obviously I'm not an English major either, so this is out of just females, okay? So if you made an error like I did, this is why, okay? We interpreted it as all the students, but it should be out of all females and not all students. So now it's my sample size is 26 because I'm just looking at the females, and then out of just females, we're looking at the amount of them that got A's. So my X is 7. So if you went and did this question and got it wrong and were like, I don't understand, it makes sense to me, you know, I did everything right, what's wrong here? You're probably doing what I did and went out of the total instead of out of just the females. So,
I did it, that's why I was asking.
Double check that. Double check that. And, you know, make sure you do it out of just the females, or I guess whatever, it could be males if they change it in the assignment, okay? Now, I'm gonna agree and say that the wording here is not wonderful in terms of, you know, what it's out of. However, it's out of females, okay? So this one is out of females, and then the successes is the number of A's. All right, so if you did make an error here, that's your error probably, okay? So my P hat would be X over N, 7 out of 26, whatever that is. I'm gonna do the same thing I just did. I want a population proportion. So I'm gonna go to my calculator and say stat, and then over to test. Let's go down to one prop Z int, because I'm dealing with proportions, and I want an interval. And then my X is 7, look, my N is not 49, my N is 26, because it's just out of females, not out of the total. My C level is 95%, 0.95, and then now that's going to change my values because obviously I'm changing the sample size. So my interval notation is 0.0987, and then 0.4397, and then I'm going to say over here 0.0987. This is my tri-inequality form, and this is what the question asks for because it represents like blank less than P less than blank. But they could ask for any one of these forms. And what this means is that, so I'm going to interpret it again, out of my population of females, whatever population that comes from, out of my population of females, the proportion of them who receive an A on this test for that population is between 9.87% and 43.97%. They don't ask for the interpretation, but I'm going to take this even further because remember, I want you guys to know how to find a margin of error, and then you could be asked to determine your interval in this form in terms of the point estimate and the margin of error. So 3 ways to represent our confidence interval. And then you see it gives me P hat up there, 0.26. So this is 0.2692. So from the sample, 26.92% of the females scored an A on this particular test, out of females. Do you guys remember how to do a margin of error if you are asked for a margin of error and you have a confidence interval? What do?
Max minus the minimum over 2.
Yep, so my max here was approximately 0.4397 minus my minimum 0.0987 divided by 2. So my margin of error is, I don't know, whatever the heck that is, approximately 0.4397 minus 0.0987, whatever that is, then divided by 2, 0.17 0.05. Now they don't ask me for that, but I'm gonna give it to you just for practice. Like I tell you guys to practice. And then if I were to be asked for this, way of representing the confidence interval, you take p hat, which was 0.2692 plus or minus my margin of error, 0.1705. And those of you that are using the formula, you know that you would take the sample proportion and add and subtract the margin of error to get to the ends, these guys, of your confidence interval. And then I'm going to even go further because I told you guys that you should do this on your semester project, and then you could do it on the discussion. Let me copy and paste. Copy and paste this. Where you go, where you go and you interpret it the two different ways that you. I don't want to copy and paste the whole thing. The two different ways that you're asked. So you could do it this way. I'm just going to copy and paste this because I want you to see the repetition that is, with the interpretation, your process. There's repetition, like crazy repetition. This interpretation, I'm going to even steal this and then just manipulate it to what I have here. So I suggested yesterday for you guys to do this as your responses on your, and I saw some of you guys did that already, responses on your discussion. Somebody was asking me about the discussion. This is a way of doing a response. So when you guys are posting your initial discussion post, you could put your sample there, what the sample represents, whether it was like, I don't know, age or tooth, I don't remember what all the different samples were, so that anybody can interpret your interval. And there's two ways that they can talk about it, because these are the two different ways that you're asked in your assignments. And with 95% confidence, I'm gonna say we are 95% confident that the true, I'm just going to steal this here, the true value of the population proportion of all females who receive it. You see, like, this is, I'm just copy and pasting this, okay? This is not really crazy. That the true value of, whatever I just copied and pasted, true value of the population proportion of all students who received a grade on this test, a grade of A on this test, is between whatever values I got, 0.0987 and 0.4397, right? Not really like crazy. If many groups of what? Randomly selected Americans. If many groups of, let me go up, N, 26. If I continue to select 26 groups of randomly selected females who take this test, because we're only focused on females, then a different confidence interval would be produced from each group. About what % of these confidence intervals will contain, will contain what? Will contain the, I'm literally going to copy and paste, the true value of the population of all females, blah, 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 who receive an A on this test. Look at this. Then about blank will contain the true. Do you see how this is not like varying much? And blank % will not contain the true population proportion. And what values do I put here? About what % of these confidence intervals will contain the true value? What's that number there? How do I determine it? About
90.
What was our confidence interval? Check it out.
90.
95.
About 95% of these confidence intervals will contain the true value of the population proportion of all female students who receive a grade of an A on this test, and what % will not contain the true population proportion? 5%, whatever is less. Do you see the repetition? I literally copied and pasted everything. Do you see the repetition in the interpretations? And this is what I suggested for the discussion post. You can actually do two responses, one of them interpreting someone this way, one of them interpreting someone this way. One of them you could actually do you know, if the other learner, you know, posted in try an equality form, you could show it in this form. You know, like there's a lot of different ways you could do your response. You could calculate a margin of error and show how you get that from the confidence interval as your discussion response. Like there's a lot of, and then what I want for my students, and I would suggest for everyone as well, on your semester project, which, you know, you have a template and then you have to, you know, present this portion, put all of it. Put the 3 representations, I would even label them, and then put the 2 interpretations of the confidence interval. You understand? Show this stuff. Okay, so let me stop this recording. Tell me if, let me stop. Tell me if you guys have questions.